الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. به نستعين. الحمد لله الأول فلا شيء قبله، والآخر فلا شيء بعده، الظاهر فلا شيء فوقه، والباطن فلا شيء دونه. ثم الصلاة والسلام على مولاتنا وسيدتنا فاطمة وأبيها وبعلها وبنيها، والصلاة والسلام الله على خير الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وآله الطاهرين. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين، لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين، أرواحنا له فداء. أما بعد، فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب هب لي حكما وألحقني بالصالحين، واجعلني لسان صدق في الآخرين، واجعلني من ورثة جنة النعيم. صدق الله العلي العظيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته جميع المؤمنين والمؤمنات. First and foremost, I give my condolences to the Imam of our time, Imam Zaman, Jafar Sharif, and then to all of you on the occasion which we have come to commemorate the Shahadat of Fatemiyyah Zahra Salamullah alayha. Inshallah, over these next few nights, I want to focus on the position of Fatima Salamullah alayha in our lives, and particularly from two aspects. One aspect from the aspect of Aqidah, our belief, our faith, our Iman. Where does Fatima Zahra Salamullah alayha, where does she fit in that Aqidah? And secondly, from the perspective of our actions, our amal, that what is our duty and responsibility as it relates to Fatima Zahra Salamullah alayha, as it relates to receiving inspiration from her, understanding what our duty is, what our responsibility is, from the example of Fatima Zahra Salamullah alayha. But before I get into those particular aspects, quite often it helps to understand that where is our goal, where is the objective. So if we are focusing on Fatima Zahra Salamullah alayha in these two aspects of our lives, in our Aqidah, in our Amal, our actions, then what is the end? What will we achieve? And by understanding that goal, then we understand, or at least we will understand the importance of those two aspects. The belief of Fatima Zahra, or the Aqidah with regards to Fatima Zahra Salamullah alayha, and also with regards to our actions. And just as a prelude right now, because quite often when we study about the idea and concept, or at least our Aqidah, we study about Tawheed, Adalat, Nabuwat, Imamat, and then also Ma'ad. When we talk about Imamat, we talk about the 12 Imams, So where's Fatima Zahra salamun alayha in that? So that's the aspect I want to point out. But for now, let's focus on the goal and the objective, that if we strengthen our understanding of Fatima Zahra salamun alayha in these two aspects, that what will we achieve? And since tonight is also a night of dua, I wanted to start with one of the du'as, and particularly of one of the grandfathers of Fatima Zahra salamun alayha, Ibrahim alayhi salam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Shu'ara, so chapter 26 of the Quran, verses 83 through 85, presents a very beautiful dua to us. And this is the dua of Ibrahim where he says, Rabbi habli hukman wa alhiqni bis-salihin. So the first thing that Ibrahim, he asks for, he says, Allah, give me hukm. This hukm is either, as some of the mufassirin, they stated, is either the rulership, management. Give me those skills. Or as some have stated as well, that this hukm means hikmah, knowledge, understanding. That, oh Allah, give me that understanding which is not just simply knowledge without understanding how to apply that knowledge. Means understanding with also that is coinciding with application. Pretty much like one of the du'as of Fatima Zahra salamun alayha, where she asks Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, she asks him for three things. Allahumma inni as'aluka quwwatan fi ibadatik. Allah, give me strength in worshiping you, O Allah. Wa tabassuran fi kitabik. And also give me insight with regards to your book, the Quran. Wa fahman fi hukmik. And understanding in your ruling, your wisdom. But that tabassuran fi kitabik and hukman or fahman fi hukmik, what it comes out to be is that, look, we don't want knowledge just simply to have knowledge. We don't want to understand the Quran simply to understand the Quran. The objective is to understand the Quran so that we can implement it in our lives, our personal lives, our family lives, our social lives. So when Ibrahim, he also says, Rabbi habli hukman wa alhiqni bis-salihin, means that Allah, give me that wisdom and understanding of your deen that I can implement this in my life in every aspect of my life. And then Ibrahim, he asks for وَاجْعَلْ لِي لِسَانَ صِدْقٍ فِي الْآخِرِينَ, a truthful statement. In other words, yes, once you have that wisdom, and I'm going to come back to that last part because that's important. وَأَلْحِقْنِي بِالصَّالِحِينَ, very important. Allah, give me a truthful tongue, a truthful or clear means of expressing that knowledge and that understanding that you've given me. وَجَعَلْنِي مِنْ وَرَثَةِ جَنَّةِ النَّعِيمِ. And oh Allah, make me among those who inherit paradise. So what we see in this verse, in these three verses, I want to point this out. The first verse, verse 83 and 85. Ibrahim, he asks Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَأَلْحِقْنِي بِالصَّالِحِينَ. O Allah, make me among those who are attached to the Salihin. In verse 85, he says, وَاجْعَلْنِي مِنْ وَرَثَةِ جَنَّةٍ نَعِيمٍ. There's a great wisdom in that. Very subtle point. And this points out the goal and the objective of not only the Anbiya, the Ahlul Bayt alayhim afdhalu salatu wasalam, and also Fatima Zahra salamun alayha, that when we truly understand the direction that they're guiding us in, then we will understand that, are they leading us to paradise? That, okay, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has delivered his final revelation. We're to understand that final revelation. We're to implement it in our lives. To what end? Is the true goal and objective to gain paradise? Or is it greater than that? The answer is, it's greater than that. That's what I want to explain, that so we understand what that goal is. And Ibrahim in this dua, he's pointing that out. وَأَلْحِقْنِي بِالصَّالِحِينَ. And when he says, وَجَعَلْنِي مِنْ وَرَثَةِ جَنَّةِ نَعِيمٍ, that make me among those who inherit paradise. So what is the inheritance of paradise? Why didn't he just say, oh Allah, make me among those who are entering paradise? And this is because when you inherit something, a lot of times the inheritance that comes to you is through what? You didn't make any efforts to gain that inheritance. Meaning that someone had to pass away, someone, your parents, your relative, and you're in line to inherit from them. You didn't do anything to earn that wealth. No, that person did it. But now, because they've passed away, you're inheriting it. So Ibrahim, from this, he's showing that, look, our objective, that when we truly follow the guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, follow the guidance that the Anbiya, the awliya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they have presented to us, that it's not, oh, hey, we're doing this to gain paradise. Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib, alayhi afdal salatu wassalam, in a very famous statement, and I'm not going to repeat the entire statement. You guys have heard this many times, where he says, look, I'm not worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala out of fear of hell, out of trying to gain paradise, but I'm worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because he's worthy of that worship. In other words, the goal is not to gain paradise. Yeah, you'll get paradise, but it's not to gain paradise. You're not chasing that. You're not fleeing from hell. No, the objective is to connect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it is those individuals who are salihin, who are connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is why Ibrahim, he says, وَأَلْحِقْنِي بِالصَّالِحِينَ, that, oh Allah, connect me to those individuals who are connected to you. The closest people to you, that at least I can be in their presence. I can be with them as well. Why? Because they are with you, Ya Allah. One very beautiful example of this is in Ayatollah Mirza Ali Shirazi, one of our fuqaha. And he was known as a faqih, a jurist, very in-depth in Islamic jurisprudence, Islamic law. But he decided that his specialty was to teach Nahj al-Balagha. In fact, Ayatollah Mirza Ali Shirazi, he was the teacher of Ayatollah Shaheed Mutahari. So Ayatollah Shaheed Mutahari studied Nahj al-Balagha with Ayatollah Mirza Shirazi. And he was known not only as a faqih, but as one of the urafa, very saintly individual. So one day he was delivering a lecture. And in his lecture, he began to speak about Yawm al-Qiyamah, what is going to happen on Yawm al-Qiyamah. And this is because what he had seen in a dream. He said he had this dream. He said it was a surreal dream. He says that I saw that people were there on Yawm al-Qiyamah. He says, and then people were like running around, hysterical. Everybody was running away from each other, just running around. Like there was no goal, no objective, they were just running. He says, and people became concerned. The audience, they became kind of concerned. They're like, well, yeah, this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he also explains in the Quran. And then he said, then I saw people just being taken to hell in droves. Or no, that they were, like once they were gathered, that people were being taken account of. Like every small detail of their life. Every small thing. There was nothing that was unturned. Which again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he explains in the Quran. مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَى وَمِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَى. That whatever we do, the most minute of actions, good or bad, we're going to see them. So people begin to become worried. And then he mentioned, he says, then I saw that people just being dragged and pushed into hell. He says people were falling over into the hellfire. As Ayatollah Ali Mirza Shirazi, he began to explain this. He says, the audience, people begin to cry. And then he said that Then I saw at one point, after lots of people, most of the people on Yawm al-Qiyamah, they were being dragged into hell. He says, then there were a few that were being taken into paradise. He says, most people in the audience, they began to kind of feel a little bit at ease that, oh, okay, yes, there's some rahmah, there's some mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But at that point, he began to cry. And people were like, what? You're saying people were being taken to paradise? And he says, and then I saw that I was being taken to paradise. He began to cry even louder. And people were like, what? Like, what is the meaning of that? Afterwards, he was like, look, he says, if I was being taken to paradise, he says, then I've become Ahlul Jannah, the people of paradise, instead of Ahlullah. He says, our objective is to become Ahlullah, not Ahlul Jannah, the people of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the people who are connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those salihin that Ibrahim also himself, he says, Rabbi habli hukman wa alhiqni bis salihin. He said he was appalled that I wasn't included among Ahlullah. I was only included among the people of paradise. And this is subhanAllah, as we recite in Dua Kamal that we recited tonight. There's a phrase there that if we truly pay attention to it, that it conveys the exact same meaning. That when we tell Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that when farraqta bayni wa bayna ahba'ika wa awliya'ik, that, oh Allah, if you toss me among those people who you will punish, that will suffer your wrath. وَفَرَّقْتَ بَيْنِي وَبَيْنَ أَحْبَائِكَ, and you separated me from those people who you love, O Allah. You separated me from those individuals who are your awliya, O Allah, those salihin. And we pray that, O Allah, that give me patience with regards to the torment. I'm not concerned about the torment. وَكَيْفَ أَصْبِرُ عَلَى فِرَاقِكَ. But what concerns me is that how can I be separated from you, O Allah? In other words, what we understand, if you pay attention, to be separated from the hibba of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the awliya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is equivalent to being separated from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah, I can bear the torment, the pain, the hellfire. كيف أصبر على فراقك, O Allah. So our goal and our objective is to be among those Ahlullah. And one of those ways of being among the Ahlullah is to truly understand our position with regards to Fatemiyyah Zahra Salamun alayha, our aqidah with regards to Fatemiyyah Zahra Salamun alayha, our, as they say, our understanding or following her example of Fatemiyyah Zahra Salamun alayha. And this comes out in a very beautiful statement of Imam Baqir alayhi salatu wasalam, where he's sitting with Jabir ibn Abdullah Ansari. He tells Jabir, he says, Ya Jabir, wallahi innaha dhalika al-yawm. He says, oh Jabir, innaha, speaking about Fatemiyyah Zahra salamun alayha. She says, on that day, on Yawm al-Qiyamah, لتلتقط شيعتها ومحبيها كما يلتقط الطير الحب الجيد من الحب الردي. He says, on the Yawm al-Qiyamah, that what will be the action of Fatemiyyah Zahra salamun alayha? He said that on Yawm al-Qiyamah, Fatemiyyah Zahra, among all the crowd that is going to be there, she will pluck out, she would choose out those individuals who are her Shia and who are her loved ones, muhibbiha. Just as you'll see a bird, if you ever pay attention to a bird that's pecking on the ground, that there's some feed there, seeds. Not all the seeds are good, but they do it so quickly that what happens? They pick out the good seeds from the bad. Said Fatemiyyah Zahra salamun alayha on Yawm al-Qiyamah, she will be picking out those individuals who are her Shia, Shi'atu Fatima, Shi'atu wa muhibbiha. Of course, as followers of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim afdal salatu wassalam, we often say that, yes, we are Shi'atu Ali. But in reality, in a great aspect, we are Shi'atu Fatima. We are Shi'atu Fatima. If it was not for Fatima Zahra Salamallah alayha, after the demise or the shahadat of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, who would know al-haq from batil? Who would know what is right from what is wrong? Who was to know what is right from wrong? She spoke out. She rose up. She went from door to door to door to door to remind people of the Hajjatul Wada of Rasulullah. She reminded people, she reminded the Ummah that her father, Rasulullah, said, Man kuntu mawlahu fahada aliyun mawla. Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam, by the order of Rasulullah. And also to protect the Ummah, he told Amir al-Mu'mineen, he says, look, your rights will be usurped, but right now you can't speak out. So who spoke out? It was Fatima Zahra salamullah alayha. So anyone who has iman, who believes La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, then without doubt we are in debt to Fatima Zahra salamullah. Our iman, our belief. That if you say that you're Shia to Ali, then you have to be Shia to Fatima as well. And that's why on Yawm al-Qiyamah she will pluck her Shia out, her Muhib out. And that goal, as I said, and that objective is to take people to connect them to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And connecting them to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, again, has different aspects. Just very briefly, since I think we started a little bit late, I know tomorrow is a work day, but just want to give one example of the knowledge, the advice that Fatima Zahra salamullah alayha, also practical advice that she has left for us. And this is in one of the hadith that is in Mustadrak al-Wasa'il. She said that she asked her father, she asked Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that what is the compensation of that person who takes the salat lightly? Yastakhiffu bis salat. Doesn't mean that the person is not praying, but yastakhiffu bis salat. And this is something that we find in numerous ahadith by Ahlul Bayt alayhim al-Fasad Imam Sadiq, Imam Baqir, about those individuals, yastakhiffu bis salat. They just take the salat lightly. They don't give it due diligence. And this is why, as I mentioned, one of those three things that Fatima Zahra salamullah alayha, she asked for, she said that, Allahumma inni as'aluka quwwatan fi ibadatik. That Allah give me strength in worshiping you. But that strength in worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, again, not out of fear for hell, not out of trying to gain paradise. I'll point out something very interesting, very subtle in the life of Fatima. We know it, but just so that we can understand that. So, quwwatan fi ibadatik. So give me strength in worshiping you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when she narrates this hadith, Ya Rasulullah, that what is the reward of that person? Yastakhiffu bis salat. They take the salat like. The Prophet of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam told us there's 15 afflictions for the person who yastakhiffu bis salat. 6 of those are in this world, 3 of them are at the time of death, 3 of them are in the grave itself, and another 3 on Yawm al-Qiyamah. 15 afflictions. The first 2 afflictions are that the blessings and the barakah in a person's life and also the person's sustenance, their rizq. So in their life, and in their sustenance, it will be less simply by taking the salat lightly, not giving it its due importance. And again, we see the seerah of Fatimah Zahra, salamu alayha, that she would pray to the point that her feet would be swelling. Her feet would swell because of how she prayed, she engaged with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The third thing, and this is in this world, that the Prophet of Allah, he says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will remove the look or that aura of as-salihin from that individual. And that was the goal, to connect with the salihin. Rabbi habli hukman wa alhiqni bis salihin. That, oh Allah, make me among those who are connecting with the salihin. How do we connect with the salihin? Through our ibadah, through our salat, giving the salat its due and giving it its right. But if we don't do that, then what happens? That look of the salihin, whether sometimes we may know it, or we may see it, or we may not see it, but the angels of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they see it. They know who are among the salihin. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows who are among those salihin. So whatever that aura is, whatever that look is that the salihin has, that if one takes the salat lightly, then that look will be gone. The reward for our actions also is reduced because we are taking the salat lightly. Our prayers and our du'as are not answered. Sometimes when we make du'a to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have to see that, oh, well, what is my salat like? Our du'as are mustahab. Okay, yes, Allah, we need this thing. That. But those things which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He obligates us to do, where's our attention in it? Or we're just like, oh, Allahu Akbar, we're going through it so fast, we don't even know what we're saying. Sometimes it becomes so routine, we're just going, we don't even know what we're saying. It's like, okay, ruku, sajda, and it's done. Allahu Akbar. Then we ask Allah, oh Allah, I'm having this problem, that if we want those du'as to be answered, then pay attention to our salah. The other thing, the sixth thing in this world, which is affected by us taking this out lightly, if we ask someone to make dua on our behalf, which quite often we do, that, oh, make this dua for me, that dua is also not effective. That if we're not taking our own salat serious. The three afflictions during the time of death. One is that the person dies humiliated. What exactly does that mean? Because sometimes we may look and we say, oh, just hypothetically. Maybe someone didn't really take their salat serious, but when we look at them when they pass away, we think, oh, okay, it's just a normal death. But that death that is seen by the angels, when the angels of death, when they come, it's a different story. What they see, what Israel does, how that soul is taken from the body. And Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu very beautifully he says, a very long hadith, but just a summary of that. He says, when the believer dies, it's like the believer smelling a rose. He smells a rose, he goes to sleep, and he wakes up in the barzakh. But for someone who's not a believer, then that death is painful, like they're being cut limb by limb with scissors. That's one of the aspects of death. So that person who yastakhifu bis salat, upon death, they have a humiliating death. The second and third affliction at the time of death for the person who yastakhifu bis salat, that they will die in a state of hunger and thirst. Subhanallah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, كُلُّ نَفْسٍ ذَائِقَةُ الْمَوْتِ, that every soul will taste death. What is the taste of death like? What is that like? So Fatima Zahra salamun alayha, she's narrating from Rasulullah, for some that taste of death is hunger and thirst. Just want to give you a very beautiful reminder. It's a very, very beautiful point that quite often in Muharram, especially when we speak about the Shahadat of Ali Akbar, alayhi salam, what do we say? That what is written in the Maqtal? Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam, he tells Ali Akbar, he says that, Ya bunay, O my son, because he came back at one point. And he told Imam Hussein, he says, this chainmail is heavy, is waiting upon me, and thirst is killing me. So Imam Hussein, he says, don't worry. He says, your grandfather, he's going to give you a drink that once you drink that water from Kawthar, he says, you will never become thirsty again. And what did Ali Akbar, when he fell on the plains of Karbala, what did he say? He called out, he said, Ya abata, hada jaddi Rasulullah yusqini. That, oh, my father, my grandfather has come, and he is giving me water. He's giving me this drink. In other words, the death of Ali Akbar wasn't a death of thirst. It wasn't a death of thirst. That upon death, he had water. The life was a life of thirst. On that battlefield, he was thirsty. But once he crossed over into paradise, in that barzakh, it was through what? Through the water that Rasulullah had brought for him. Subhanallah. But man yastakhiffu bis salat. But the person who takes the salat lightly, what happens is Fatima Zahra, she narrates, she says, that person, their taste of death is hunger and thirst. Quickly, in the grave, that person will face, one, discomfort in the grave. In fact, as Fatima Zahra salamu alayha, she narrates from Rasulullah, says Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will appoint an angel to make sure that that grave is not comfortable for that individual. The grave will be narrow, second thing, and third, the grave will be dark. The three afflictions at a time of, on the day of judgment, is that that person will be dragged to their account. So when it comes a time for them to take account of their actions, they will be dragged to that place. And each and every action will be taken account of. Very difficult account. That's the second thing. The third thing is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not look upon that person with mercy. SubhanAllah, this is, when she narrates this, especially this last point on Yawm al-Qiyamah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not look upon that person with mercy. What is that like? Because we know that in one very beautiful hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he stated that the rahmat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so vast on Yawm al-Qiyamah. That's so vast on Yawm al-Qiyamah that the Rasulullah, he says, Ana atahayyar, that I will become shocked that how the rahmat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala encompass people that I didn't even expect to encompass. That's the rahmat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But here, he's saying that one of the afflictions on Yawm al-Qiyamah for that individual that does not give the due rights to their salat is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not look upon that person with mercy. Subhanallah. That is, again, hard to understand and fathom. Salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. These are the aspects of our salat. And again, as I said, that Fatima Zahra, salamun alayha, this particular hadith that she's narrating from Rasulullah, the objective, yes, she's letting us know that one of the means to connect with Salihin. Because when we look at the example of the Ahlul Bayt, alayhim afsalatu wasalam, from Rasulullah, from Fatima Zahra, Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein, all of the Imam alayhim afdal salatu wasalam, that their ibadah is unmatched. Their ibadah is unmatched. In fact, one of the great urafa, ulama, I just mentioned this, that and how we should be inspired. Maybe we will not be able to take on this aspect. When one of our great ulama, urafa, Ayatollah Khunsari. If you guys have, anybody has ever gone to Qom and they made the ziyarat of Lady Fatima Ma'asuma, salamullah alayha, if they see where the grave of Allama Tabatabai is. So right beside the grave of Allama Tabatabai is Ayatollah Sayyid Khunsari. Ayatollah Khunsari himself, he said that one day he was, again, he's studying the Nahj al-Balagha, he's looking at the ibadat of Ahlul Bayt, and he began to look at his own ibadah. He says, what? He says, what is the state of my ibadah? This is after he, again, he's mushtad, he's alim, he's like well into his 40s. And then he took it upon himself. He says that, you know what? He says, I don't think my ibadah was like the ibadat of Ahlul Bayt. And even, it could never become that way, but truly, was I really paying, for these past 40 years, was I really paying attention to my ibadah? So at that point, he began to make qadha of every single salat. Not that he missed the salat, but he says, no, those salat should be done with focus. Those salat should be done with focus. So he made up over 40 years of salat that he didn't miss. But simply because he was like, those ibadahs wasn't what the Ahlul Bayt have taught us. Ayatollah Khunsari, again, subhanAllah, this is one of the things that, again, his maqam, his station, was such that, now I'll give you just one example of what happened in his life. So before he passed away, he saw Israfi, the angel of death. And someone was like, oh, you saw him in a dream? He says, no. He says, I saw him. He came and he gave me salams. I gave him salams. He turned around, took 7 steps, and he was gone. And so I told Khunsari, he was like, well, from this, I know. He says, I won't be alive in 7 days. In 7 days, he's going to come back, and that's going to be the end of my life. So then he starts making his plans. This. And sure enough, in 7 days, he passes away. This is someone who, again, there's other really amazing things that I told Khunsari. But someone who, again, followed that example of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salatu wasalam. That, oh Allah, connect me with those individuals who are righteous. Interesting that when we look at that, when we even look at the possibility of that, when the angel of death, when Israfil, when he came to the house of Fatima, this is when Rasulullah was there. When Rasulullah was passing away, Israfil, he knocked on the door of Fatima. Israfil does not come and knock on the door of anyone. He comes. He just comes. But we see that someone who, like Ayatollah Khunsari, who follows that example of the Ahlul Bayt, that, again, Israfil, he will come, he gave his salams, took those 7 steps, and it's like, he understood that, oh, in 7 days, he's coming back. And when he comes back, and this is going to be the end. He came to the door of Fatima Zahra and sought permission to come in. But before that time, just a little bit, I want to explain one of those moments in the life of Fatima Zahra, that Medina of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. That when the Prophet of Allah, he was on his deathbed, a couple of things happened. One of them was that even Rasulullah, he mourned for Fatima Zahra on his own deathbed. Subhanallah. But one of those things that also happened is that when Fatima Zahra, salamun alayha, when she was watching these last moments of the life of her father, of Rasulullah, there's one moment that she cried, she mourned, Rasulullah drew her near, whispered something in her ear. Then she smiled. What did he tell Fatima Zahra? He says that you will be the first to come. And yalhaqni min ahlul bayti. You will be the first who will come and be with me among the ahlul bayt. Subhanallah. Meaning that she wasn't smiling because the Prophet of Allah promised her paradise. The Prophet of Allah promised her what? That you will come and you will be with me. You will be the first to be with me among my Ahlul Bayt. That same dua, Al-Hiqni bis-Salihin. Why? Because there's no one closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than Rasulullah. That what made her happy is that she will be in the presence of Rasulullah, of her father. Not that she's gaining paradise. No, I will be with Rasulullah, my father. And my father, of course, is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That was one of the things that happened in the Medina of Rasulullah. The other thing that happened is that Rasulullah, he began to mourn for Fatima Zahra. Brothers and sisters, that just 3 days ago, 2nd of December, I returned back from Medina. We went for Umrah. And if you've gone to Medina, then you know that what is the state of Medina. It reminds you of also Medina of that time, that what was the state of the Ahlul Bayt. That in Medina, if you go today, then yes, there's a place that you can go. And you can at least give your salutations to Rasulullah. Assalamu alayka ya Rasulullah. There's a place that's designated. You see the grave of Rasulullah. In Medina, you could go to Jannatul Baqi. And you see the graves of our Imam. But what state are those graves in? But when you want to give your salutations and salat and salam to the beloved daughter of Rasulullah, then where do you turn? Do you turn towards Masjid al-Nabi, that perhaps, as some say, that maybe she's buried closer there? Or do you turn towards Baqi? Where do you turn to give your salutations upon Fatima Zahra? Assalamu alayka ya bint Rasulillah. Assalamu alayki ya ummatan la'immatin nujaba. Assalamu alayka ya Fatima Zahra. That where do we turn to give that salutations to Fatima Zahra? This is the madhulumiyyah of Fatima Zahra, the oppression of Fatima Zahra. That Rasulullah, that while he was on his deathbed, he recited these words. He says, وَإِنِّي لَمَّا رَأَيْتُهَا ذَكَرْتُ مَا يُصْنَعُ بِهَا بَعْدِي. He said that when I saw my daughter Fatima, I began to remember that what will happen to her after me. This is Rasulullah upon his deathbed. فَتَكُونَ أَوَّلَ مَنْ يَلْحَقُنِي مِنْ أَهْلِ بَيْتِي. And that she will be the first to come. She will be the first who will reach me from among the Ahlul Bayt. فَتَقْدُمَ عَلَيَّ مَحْزُونَةً مَكْرُوبَةً مَغْمُومَةً مَغْصُوبَةً مَقْتُولَةً. That how would Fatima Zahra, how would she return to Rasulullah? She will return in a state that her property has been usurped from her. She will return to be in a state that her rib is also broken. She will return to me in a state that she has lost her baby. She will return back to Rasulullah, madhluma, maqtula, shaheeda. This is why Rasulullah, he was mourning on his own deathbed for Fatima Zahra. But let me tell you one moment in that whole tragedy of Fatima Zahra. They said at one time, in one moment, Fatima Zahra, she came to Rasulullah when she saw her father and she called him, Ya Rasulullah. And Rasulullah, he replied to her, he says, oh my daughter, why are you calling me Ya Rasulullah? That you always called me Ya Abata, that you always call me, oh my father. And that is what calms my heart, that when you call me, oh my father. But today you've called me Ya Rasulullah. Fatima Zahra, she replied, she says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, don't call out to Rasul as you call out to other people. So I wanted to call you Ya Rasulullah. Rasulullah says, no. That call me Ya Abata, because this calms my heart. But we can say that perhaps there was one moment that yes, Fatima Zahra, she called Rasulullah Ya Abata, but I'm not sure, it perhaps did not calm the heart of Rasulullah. When was this? This was the moment that Fatima Zahra, she was pinned between the door and the wall. She called out, Ya Abata, Ya Rasulullah. هكذا كان يفعل بحبيبتك وابنتك يا أبتايا. That, oh my father, that look how they have treated your beloved daughter. Look how they have treated your Fatima. That they have treated her in such a way. ألا لعنة الله على قوم الظالمين إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. اللهم بحق هذا المجلس الفاطمية اغفر ذنوبنا واستر عيوبنا وقضي حوائجنا واشفي مرضانا وارحم أمواتنا وعجل فرج مولانا صاحب العصر والزمان واجعلنا من أعوانه وأنصاره والمستشارين بين يديه وتحت لواء بحق محمد وآله الطاهرين.